Hello, welcome to another science and technology video with Ms. Hinkson. So today, I've asked you guys to read pages 433 to 435, which basically outlines the scientific method and the experimental method. I know sometimes reading is difficult, so I figured, you know what, let's do this reading together. So get your textbooks. Okay, so before we actually go ahead and start reading, we've been having some discussions about science and basically trying to figure out, how do you study science? How do you do research? What are the steps involved in studying science? So we briefly spoke about the scientific method, but let's just jump into it. So turn to page 433 in your EUREKA textbook, and we'll start reading. So we're on topic 2, how to apply the experimental method. The first section over here, the scientific method and problem solving. So we are over here. The objective of science is to describe, explain, and predict phenomena. To solve a problem, scientists use a method that guides their thought processes and experiments. It is called the scientific method. Scientists' primary concern is to establish relationships between the problem that they need to solve and existing phenomena. In other words, they must determine whether a theory that is already accepted by the scientific community can explain the problem that they are studying. If not, they must suggest changes to existing theories or develop new ones. So we're over here. When scientists develop a new theory, they often need to deduce connections between the problem that they need to solve and other phenomena in order to arrive at a temporary explanation. This is called hypothetical deduction. Sometimes they need to predict what is going to happen. This is called hypothetical prediction. In each case, scientists must verify their explanations and predictions using experiments. This is called the experimental method, which is part of the scientific method. In class, you will apply accepted theories to problems that you need to solve. You too will learn to use the scientific method to guide your thought processes and experiments. So as we can see, studying science is basically like problem solving. You see something, you observe something in the natural or physical world, or you see a problem, and you try to come up with reasons as to why that's happening. So maybe something in science, or there's already theories that have been established by the scientific community that can help you figure out why this is happening. Or sometimes there aren't any theories that are already in place and you have to figure out why this is happening, okay? So we will go on now to the experimental method over here on the bottom. The experimental method. The experimental method consists of 5 steps. However, you might want to change the order provided here. Also, you might not need to do each step every time you want to solve a problem. You can always backtrack and make changes as you go along. So we are over here. Step number 1 is I observe. You are interested in a phenomenon or required to solve a problem. You make observations using your 5 senses. Can you guys name those 5 senses? You can also use instruments such as the microscope or telescope to extend your senses. Observations may or may not involve measurements. Observations that involve measurements are called quantitative observations. Observations that do not involve measurements are called qualitative observations. For example, I saw the snow melt is a qualitative observation. However, I saw the snow had melted completely after 1 hour is a quantitative observation. So if we go down here to the box is just giving you the definitions of quantitative observation and qualitative observation again. So let's read them again, because these are concepts that follow you for the rest of your life in science. So quantitative observation, an observation involving quantities that can be expressed in numbers. A qualitative observation, an observation that involves quality, shape, or properties and cannot be expressed in numbers. All right, so if you look at the bottom of the page over here, they are showing you an example of an observation. So they're referring to this picture, an example of an observation. I observe that the asphalt gets very hot on sunny days. So you can actually even see, like, you know, when you, I'm sure you've seen this before, where it looks like there's almost like steam coming out from the asphalt. All right, so let's go on to the next page, page 434. Again, remember, we are reading the steps of the experimental method. There are 5 steps. I observe, right? So making observations was step number 1. Step 2, I develop a research question or questions. Your observations will often give rise to questions. Sometimes you might want to deduce an explanation before carrying out your experimental investigation. So deduce just means basically to come up with, right? To reason through and come up with something. You might also predict the answer to your question. This prediction is hypothetical, uncertain, and temporary. It must be confirmed or disproved by your experimental investigation. Example of a question. Does dark clothing become hotter in the sun than light clothing? Okay, so this is a question. And then the example of a hypothetical prediction. So you're making a prediction. I think that dark clothing will become hotter than light clothing. Okay, so the first one was a question. Second one was a prediction. All right, step number 3, I define the variables. You conduct an experiment to answer a question. In order for your results to be valid, it is important to specify the factors that you will be controlling. Examples of variables. I must use 2 articles of clothing of different colors, one light and one dark. The variable is the color of the clothing. I must expose these 2 articles of clothing to the same light source for the same amount of time. The variable is the length of exposure to the light source. All right, now you are actually going to conduct the experiment. Okay, so what step are we at? We're at 1, 2, 3. Step number 4, I experiment. So this is the actual experiments happening. You must determine the steps of your experiment. This work plan is called the experimental procedure. The procedure must be clear enough for another person to reproduce the same experiment. See figure 2. So over here, this, so figure 2 is over there, right? So this is an experiment. All right, so, and over here, it's explaining the experimental procedure. It is a description of the steps and conditions of an experiment, okay? Figure 2, example of an experiment procedure, list of material and experimental setup. So this whole thing here is an example of what the procedure would look like. All right, so let's go over here. You must choose the equipment and material that you will need. 2, prepare a procedure that clearly numbers each step. This procedure must take laboratory safety instructions into account. So you've always got to be safe in the lab. 3, use all of the equipment in your list. Step 4, respect and monitor all of the variables that you have selected. So remember, we spoke about variables over here, okay? Step 5, conduct your experiment and follow all the applicable safety rules. So there's this always talking about being safe, okay? Step number 6, record all the information you collected, okay? So over here is an example, again, we were just talking about this, of an experiment. So the procedure is written. You also always have to mention the equipment and the material, what it is that you're using to conduct this experiment. What materials do you need? That always has to be included in your procedure. Okay, so let's just read through this procedure quickly. Step 1, place a piece of white cardboard under a lamp 30 centimeters away from the light bulb. Step 2, place a piece of black cardboard under another lamp 30 centimeters away from the light bulb. Step 3, record the initial temperature of the 2 thermometers. Step 4, slide a thermometer under each piece of cardboard. Step 5, turn on the lamps. Step 6, wait 20 minutes. Step 7, record the final temperature of the 2 thermometers. Step 8, put away the equipment. So it's always important too that you clean up your workstation wherever you're doing your lab experiment. So lab safety is important, and lab cleanliness, making sure that everything's clean. So we're gonna go on to page 435. Final step, you've completed your experimental procedure. Now you've got to analyze your results. So we're on top of page 435. I analyze my results and present them. You must organize, analyze, and present your results in an appropriate manner. See topic 5. These results consist of all of your observations, so you don't leave anything out, you write down everything that you've done. The values that you have calculated based on your observations are also part of your results. You must analyze your results to answer the initial question or questions. So remember the section called I develop a research question. You must also be able to draw all possible conclusions from your experiment. Okay. If you made a prediction, determine whether it is consistent with your results. So I'm just going to comment on that. So if you made a prediction, okay, so you have to make sure that it's aligned with your results, like it makes sense. Okay, so your results kind of prove your prediction right. It is important to analyze the results objectively, even when you're disappointed with them and they are not what you expected. So what that means is, although you had a prediction, you should not analyze your data and change your answers so that your prediction is right. You have to analyze the data objectively, meaning you've got to be truthful. Okay? We're over here. You can discuss the results and conclusions with your classmates. You can also present the entire procedure in an oral or written lab report. Okay? We will talk about lab reports eventually. Make any changes that you think are necessary to improve your procedure for next time. You can also make changes if you ask yourself other questions after the experiment. Okay, so over here, I'm just going to talk about this. We're in the section of analyzing your results. To analyze your results have to be very organized. Usually, especially when you have quantitative data, meaning you took measurements of something, that data is usually organized in a table. Tables are a very good way to organize yourself, and it makes it so easy for people to look at your data and have an understanding of your experiment. So over here we have this picture. Remember, the whole thing that we were looking at in this actual example was that darker objects get more hotter than lighter objects. So if we observe this picture, we see that we have these 2 people. She's wearing lighter colors. More specifically, let's look at her hat. It's lighter. He's wearing darker colors. His hat is black. she looks fine. He looks really, 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 really hot. So this is where we make these observations, and where these observations, they sprung into an actual experiment. So this person wanted to test if darker material gets hotter than lighter material. So that could have been him or her observing this situation and saying, hey, there's a question, there's a problem, I'm observing it, I want to figure that out. So that was our discussion about scientific method and the experimental method. Here is a summary of the 5 steps that we saw. So the experimental method consists of 5 steps. First step, you observe something or some things, right? So you look at 2 people, one person sweating more than the other, and the person that's sweating more had on a black hat, okay? 2, you develop a research question or questions based on the observations, okay? Step 3, design an experiment that will help you answer the questions. Step 4, conduct the experiment. So you do the actual experiment. Step 5 is the results section. That is where you analyze the results and report them. So you can report them in a lab report. You can report them orally by discussing it with your class. There are different ways, but normally we put our results in a lab report. So again, I'd like to thank you for listening. And of course, if you have any other questions about this topic or anything else that we've been looking at, or you have some questions or comments about something you'd like to look at, please let me know. You can email me at hinksons@loyola.ca. Have an awesome day.